I've been lying to both my therapist and my mother for the past year, and last Thursday it finally paid off. It started when I realized my therapist was reporting everything I said straight back to my mom. I mentioned one small thing in a session, that I sometimes wore my shoes indoors, and 3 days later my mother confiscated every pair I owned. She held up my favorite trainers like evidence at a trial. You can wear 2 pairs of socks until you learn where shoes belong. Most kids would have just been furious. I sat on my bed that night and thought, therapists aren't allowed to do that. It's not just wrong, it's illegal. So why was mine feeding information to my mother like an informant? That's when I started planning. My mother has always needed to control my world the way fish need water. After she and my dad divorced, she told the court he was unstable and emotionally unavailable, which is genuinely funny because the man cries at adverts. She got full custody and a generous maintenance payment, which apparently funds her monitoring of my every breath, tracking apps on my phone. My diary read regularly, which I know because I once wrote, "Mom, stop reading my diary," and was grounded the next day for disrespect. So when I ended up in therapy, I assumed it was another trap. I tested it. I fed Dr. Amari the shoes thing and waited. Punishment arrived on schedule. I went back the following week and mentioned that my mother had taken all my shoes and my feet were blistered. Dr. Amari didn't flinch, didn't apologize, just smoothly changed the subject to school. So I lied. "I'm failing chemistry," I said. "I can't get my head around any of it." 1 week later, my chemistry teacher pulled me aside, baffled. "Your mother rang demanding a meeting about your failing grade. I told her you have the highest mark in the class." She refused to believe me. I thanked her and walked away smiling. Confirmed. For months after that, I fed them both carefully constructed lies. I told Dr. Amari I felt disconnected from my dad and didn't much want to see him. Strategic. If Mum believed I resented him, she'd never suspect we were working together. That lie earned me a new phone. Meanwhile, I was building the real case. I found receipts, cash payments to Dr. Amari on top of what insurance covered, off the books money to keep her updated. The library computers weren't tracked, so I emailed everything to my dad from there. He wrote back one word, "Ready." Then I requested a family session. Mum was delighted. She probably thought I was finally going to concede she'd been right all along. We sat in that office, Mum launching straight in about my defiance, my lying, how I needed more intensive treatment. Dr. Amari nodded gravely about concerning patterns. I sat with my hands folded and said nothing. Then a knock at the door. Dr. Amari frowned. "I don't have anyone else booked." My dad walked in. I was out of my chair before I could stop myself. Mum's face went through about 6 expressions. "What are you doing here? This is a private session. Get out." "Actually," I said, "he has a legal right to attend family therapy appointments." I checked. Dad stayed calm, standing between us. "I'm filing for full custody, and I have evidence that Dr. Amari has been passing confidential session information to you in exchange for cash payments. That's not just unethical. It's a breach of the law." Mum went white. Dr. Amari's notepad slid out of her hands and hit the carpet. "You lied to a judge to get custody," Dad said. "You paid a therapist to spy on your own daughter." He turned. "And you, my daughter and I have already reported you to the licensing board." Dr. Amari started stammering about context and misunderstanding. Nobody was listening. Mum found her voice. "You ungrateful little..." Dad put a hand on my shoulder. "Come on, kiddo. We're finished here." In the car park, he looked down at me and smiled properly for the first time in months. "You did well. I'm proud of you." Then he paused. "Want to stop somewhere on the way home?" I laughed. Actually laughed out loud for the first time in a year. "Yeah," I said. "I really do. I live with my dad now. Nobody reads my diary. Nobody tracks my phone. And last week, I wore my shoes inside the house on purpose just to see how it felt. It felt like being a person.